Tonight, we'll journey backward, far, far back, beyond the iron and marble of Rome, before the pharaohs carved their gods into stone, beyond even the myths of Greece, to a place where history began not with monuments, but with mud, with baked clay, with reeds pressed into wet tablets, with cities stitched together beside a winding, unpredictable river.
Out.
Tonight, we enter ancient Babylon,
Out.
but not the Babylon of legend or prophecy.
Out. Tailed.
Not the golden city from old scriptures or romantic tales. No, this is the real Babylon. A living, sweating, struggling city, dusty and loud, devout and disciplined. And, for most people, a place of constant toil. This was the world where civilization took shape, where time was measured, where laws were first etched into stone, where empires rose from the fertile floodplain. Over the next 2 hours, we'll wander through this ancient world, slowly and gently. We'll begin with the quiet miseries of daily life for the average Babylonian, someone not remembered in any text, someone who lived and died beneath the shadow of the ziggurat. From there, we'll follow the arc of Babylon's greatest ruler, a man whose dreams touched the sky but whose fears pulled him into darkness. Then we'll descend beneath the temples, to the hidden corners of archaeology, where flood legends sleep beneath the soil. And finally, we'll glimpse the rarefied lives of Babylon's elite, the priests who ate in silence, kept secrets from kings, and shaped the sacred rhythms of the city. So find a quiet place. Let your body relax. Breathe slowly. And imagine yourself stepping barefoot into the morning dust of ancient Babylon. Imagine you are waking up, not in the present, but in a modest, sun-baked room made of mud brick. The year is somewhere around 1750 BCE. The floor beneath you is hard-packed earth, still cool from the night. There's no pillow, no mattress, just woven reeds, smoothed by your body over many restless nights. The air smells faintly of cooked grain, of fire smoke, and something sharp and acrid. Perhaps the neighbor's chamber pot left too close to the door. You are not a priest, not a noble. You are one of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who live on the dusty margins of Babylon's glory. Your day begins before sunrise. Always before sunrise. There is no clock to wake you, but the rhythm of the city is relentless. Somewhere, a rooster cries. Somewhere else, temple drums beat a slow cadence, signals for offerings, for prayers, for the city to stir. You rub sleep from your eyes and slip outside. The door is nothing more than a hanging cloth. You push past it into a narrow, crooked alley of clay homes stacked like termite mounds. The street is already alive, not bustling but groaning awake. Vendors are setting up low carts, most made of scavenged wood. The bread seller has already lit her fire. You can smell the flat barley loaves beginning to roast. Dense and bitter, meant to fill the stomach, not to delight the tongue. And you have a job to get to. Perhaps you're a laborer for a merchant, hauling a furry of date syrup from boat to warehouse. Or you might be working on the city's vast irrigation channels, built and rebuilt every season to control the Tigris's moods. If you're especially unlucky, you work at the temple. You might think this is a holy privilege. It is not. Temple duty means rising earlier than everyone else. It means sweeping long colonnades of dust that always returns. It means hauling water from canals to wash the sacred tools. It means cleaning up after the animals. Bulls and goats prepared for ritual, but not yet sacrificed. You are not allowed to speak unless spoken to. You do not eat until late in the day. You walk barefoot on hot stone. And over everything there is the code. The Code of Hammurabi. Etched into black basalt, carved in rows of cuneiform. The king's law is everywhere. Even if you can't read it, you hear about it in whispers. You know its weight. Break a tool you were loaned, you'll owe 10 times its worth. Steal a loaf of bread, the punishment depends on who you stole from and who you are. A man, a slave, a child. Each status, a different price. Sometimes in silver, sometimes in lashes, sometimes in blood. You keep your head down, midday comes. Sun hangs overhead like a judgment. You sweat. There's no shade except what falls from walls and stacked homes. Flies buzz near the canals, drawn by waste. The water is sacred, and yet it carries everything. You're careful when you drink it. You whisper a little prayer, even if you're not devout. In the afternoon, there might be moments of reprieve. Children play with carved figurines or clay balls in the dust. A musician plucks soft tones from a lyre, sitting beneath an awning, shaded by woven reeds. The city has moments of peace, but they are brief, and not for everyone. You pass a procession headed toward the Temple of Marduk. Priests in white robes, draped with fragrant oils. Their sandals are polished, their faces calm. You avert your eyes. You will never enter the ziggurat. Not as a visitor, not as a believer, not unless you are scrubbing the stones beneath their feet. Evening falls slowly, the clay walls retain heat. Inside your home, it's stifling. There is a little food. Barley stew, maybe a few onions. If you're lucky, a fig. You don't talk much. There is nothing new to say. Before sleep, you might press your hand against the cool wall. Listen to the city breathing through its alleys. Stars above are ancient, unchanged. The same stars that guided Sumerian priests long before Babylon's rise. The same stars you've never truly had time to name. You are tired. Every day is the same. The city endures. The rhythm of your life of thousands like you continues. Quiet, constant, unnoticed, and so your day ends. As the oil lamps burn low and the sounds of donkeys' drums and distant prayers drift away into night, we move forward in time, just a little, toward a man who wanted Babylon not just to endure, but to shine like a god. When you're ready, we'll meet him. King who dreamed too much, the dusty alleys of Babylon echo beneath your feet. But now the shadows are longer, the stones are more polished, the city is grander. We are no longer in the humble world of laborers and temple sweeps. It is now the 6th century BCE. Babylon has risen again. This time, not merely as a city, but as the heart of an empire. And at the center of this empire, glimmering behind veils of silk and stone, sits one man, Nebuchadnezzar II. His name, strange, sharp, almost musical, has survived for over 2,500 years. You may have heard it spoken in Sunday schools, history books, or ancient inscriptions. But behind the name is a man both brilliant and brutal, devoted and destructive. A king who built wonders and broke worlds. Nebuchadnezzar, son of Nabopolassar, was born not with a silver spoon, but with expectation. His father had thrown off the yoke of the Assyrian Empire, a crumbling behemoth that had once ruled with iron teeth. The Babylonians, newly free, looked to the young prince not just to preserve their kingdom, but to transform it. And transform it he did. Let's walk beside him now, softly, like a shadow behind the throne. The builder, King Nebuchadnezzar, was no mere warrior. He was, above all, a builder. Under his rule, Babylon became the largest and most resplendent city in the known world. Picture this: walls tall enough to eclipse the horizon, gates plated in lapis lazuli, a rare deep blue stone imported at great cost. At the center of it all stood the Edamananki, a great ziggurat, some say rising nearly 300 feet. Believed by many to be the inspiration for the Tower of Babel legend, but it wasn't just temples. He ordered the reconstruction of palaces, canals, granaries, and marketplaces. Every stone laid, every street widened, every lion carved in glazed brick was part of a vision. His vision, and for a moment, it seemed to work. Foreign dignitaries marveled at the city. Traders came from as far as India, Africa, and Greece. The Euphrates was tamed and guided through the city like a royal procession. Babylon pulsed with wealth. And yet, it was not enough, because no matter how high the walls stood or how radiant the temples gleamed, Nebuchadnezzar feared loss. The warrior king. Behind his architectural brilliance burned a restless paranoia. Babylon had enemies. Always had, always would. So the king marched. First to Judah, where he laid siege to Jerusalem, not once but twice. In 586 BCE, after years of revolt and resistance, he ordered the city destroyed. The Temple of Solomon gone, its treasures carried off, its elite deported to Babylon. You've likely heard of this event. The Babylonian captivity. A trauma so profound it shaped entire religious traditions. But here in the calm of the night, We see it not as a footnote, but as a moment of terrible consequence. Nebuchadnezzar didn't hate the Jews, he didn't hate anyone really. But rebellion was rebellion. To Nebuchadnezzar, empire meant obedience. When cities defied him, he razed them. When rulers lied to him, he chained them. When priests warned him of divine wrath, he built higher temples. The madness, and then there's the story that clouds his legacy, the one that whispers of madness. In the book of Daniel, it's said that Nebuchadnezzar was cursed by God, struck by a mysterious ailment, cast from the throne into the wild. He lived like a beast, eating grass, his hair growing like eagle's feathers, his nails like bird talons. For 7 years, they say, he lost his mind. Historians debate this. Perhaps it was propaganda, or metaphor, or maybe, just maybe, there was truth in it. After all, how could any man build so much, conquer so widely, and not be haunted? He had dreamed too much, dug too deep, carried the weight of gods. The legacy when he died sometime around 562 BCE, Babylon wept. For all his cruelty, Nebuchadnezzar had made the city mighty. He elevated its status from a local capital to the shining heart of the world. He stamped his name into history, with stone, steel, and fire. And yet Babylon would not last. Within just a few decades, it fell to the Persians. Its temples emptied, its libraries forgotten, its bricks scattered. But tonight, in the stillness of our imagination, Babylon lives. The gates still gleam, the ziggurat still rises, the king still walks its gardens. Head held high, eyes weary but proud. As we follow his memory into silence, we descend now deeper, beneath the foundations of temple and palace. Because hidden below Babylon lies something stranger, older, almost mythical. The soil holds secrets. When you're ready, we'll unearth them. The moonlight fades as we descend, not into darkness, but into depth. Into the clay and sand beneath Babylon's grand avenues, past its drains and forgotten cellars, and even deeper, into layers of history, older than kings, older than writing. You're not the first to dig here. Archaeologists have clawed at this soil for centuries. Their spades struck bricks carved with cuneiform. Their brushes uncovered tablets filled with trade receipts and hymns, laws and laments. But still, some things refuse to be uncovered completely. Tonight we explore the mysteries of Babylon, the ones hidden not just in soil, but in stories. Half-truths, legends, echoes buried deeper than stone. Let's begin with the most famous myth of all, the hanging gardens that weren't there. You've heard the tale. Nebuchadnezzar, smitten with a foreign queen, builds a garden in the sky, an emerald mountain of shade and water in a sweltering desert. The hanging gardens of Babylon, a wonder of the ancient world. But here's the strange truth. We've never found them. No archaeological record, no ruins. Not a single tablet from Babylon itself even mentions them. The only descriptions we have come from Greek and Roman writers, centuries after Babylon had fallen. So what happened? Some scholars believe the gardens were not in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, 300 miles away.
Others think they were symbolic.
Mythic shorthand for Babylon's unimaginable wealth. And some wonder if they were built of wood and reeds long since rotted into dust. But the mystery lingers. In your mind's eye, you can still see them. Terraces overflowing with fig trees and date palms. Streams cascading from hidden aqueducts. A queen standing above the city, shaded by a flowering vine that never should have grown there. A dream, perhaps, or something the earth has yet to reveal. The tower that touched heaven. Deeper still, we find a ruin with a name soaked in myth, the Etemenanki, the house of the foundation of heaven and earth. A ziggurat of breathtaking scale, layered in 7 tiers. It may have soared over 90 meters tall. Some believe this is the Tower of Babel, the one from Genesis, where humanity's pride was punished with confusion. But the Etemenanki was no act of rebellion. It was a calendar, a clock, a cosmic bridge. Its tiers represented the heavens, the stars, the divine ladder from earth to the gods. Clay tablets found near its base include mathematical calculations for the construction of massive ramps. Others describe the rituals performed at its summit. Sacrifices, libations, chants and languages now dead, but this too is gone, razed, looted, ground into rubble. Alexander the Great tried to rebuild it, but died before he could finish. What remains today is a depression in the earth, wound in the ground, silent and unyielding. But in the quiet of this night, we can reconstruct it, layer by layer, brick by brick. And at the top, you stand. The air dry and thin, your eyes on the stars, the flood tablets. Among the most haunting finds beneath Babylon are not buildings, but stories, etched into clay, preserved by fire, pulled from the dust of time. One such story is the Epic of Gilgamesh, inscribed in wedge-shaped cuneiform. It tells of a king who seeks immortality, of gods who grow tired of noisy humans, and of a great flood sent to wipe them out. Sound familiar? It should. The parallels with the biblical flood are striking, down to the building of a boat, the gathering of animals, the release of birds to find land. But this story predates the Bible by over 1,000 years. When archaeologists first discovered it, they were stunned. How could a tale so ancient have survived? What does it mean that its echoes can be found across cultures and continents? Some say it's proof of a real flood, perhaps a massive river event that scarred Mesopotamia. Others call it a universal human memory of catastrophe. Whatever the truth, the story haunts us still. In Babylon, the gods gave wisdom, but not freely. And they took what they wanted, when they wanted. The astronomer priests, finally, we turn to the stargazers. The scholars of the night. Babylon's priests were not mere mystics. They were scientists. They tracked the movement of stars named planets and predicted eclipses. Some of the tablets they left behind still contain accurate lunar calculations, but their knowledge was hidden in ritual. Only the initiated could read the stars properly. Their temples were observatories, the rites filled with numbers and omens. They believed the heavens mirrored the fate of empires. When Mars turned red, war was coming. When Venus disappeared, a king would die. They consulted the gods through liver-shaped clay models, poured oil into bowls, and read the ripples like lines in a face. It was part religion, part astronomy, and part power. The priests alone held the truth, and they guarded it like gold. So here we are, beneath the temples, beneath the stones, beneath the myths. We've sifted through dust and legend, brick and bone, and now we rise again, slowly, toward the light, not into the alleys of laborers, not into the courts of kings, but into the rarefied silence of Babylon's most untouchable elite. When you're ready, we'll step inside their walls. You awake within stone walls, cool, perfumed, echoing with the faint hum of prayers and water trickling through marble basins. This is not the Babylon of toil or conquest. This is the Babylon you were never meant to see. Behind the great temples and shadowed ziggurats lived a class of people whose feet never touched the dusty streets. The priest kings, the astronomer elites, and the wealthy nobility who ruled not just with force, but with ritual, symbol, and silence. Tonight, you are not a laborer or a soldier. You are a privileged ghost drifting through incense-thick air, glimpsing the secluded, ordered world of Babylon's most powerful few. Let us begin in their homes, the house of the Magi. The noble houses of Babylon were not houses at all, but estates. Their walls were smooth and painted in whites and reds. Interior courtyards hosted sacred fig trees, peacocks, and water gardens fed by underground canals. The wealthy slept on cedarwood frames, draped with linen brought in from Egypt and India. Their kitchens smelled of cardamom, dates, lamb, and barley beer. But the most important rooms were not for sleeping or eating. They were for reading. The elite of Babylon were literate in cuneiform, a system so complex it took years to master. They read star charts, temple regulations, and dream omens. Their libraries held thousands of tablets on finance, law, divination, and medicine. In fact, one estate unearthed near ancient Sippar contained an entire tablet room, perfectly preserved. Among the texts were instructions for lunar rituals and records of donations made by lesser citizens seeking divine favor. Knowledge was not just prestige, it was power. Rituals of the inner temples, while kings sat visibly on thrones, priests controlled the soul of the empire. Their rituals, hidden from commoners, maintained the balance between gods and men. In the Temple of Marduk, Babylon's chief deity, the highest priests bathed before dawn in sacred water. They donned ritual robes and proceeded through sanctified corridors to perform ceremonies that had not changed in centuries. During the New Year festival, the king himself was brought before Marduk's golden idol. There, in full view of the priests, he was struck in the face by the high priest, hard enough to draw tears. This wasn't punishment, it was tradition. The king had to be humiliated, symbolically purged of arrogance, before Marduk could renew his reign, and if he didn't cry, it was considered a bad omen. For him and for the city. Imagine the silence of that room, the pressure, the ancient eyes watching. Even the powerful had to bow to something. The slaves and servants of the elite, of course. Such splendor came at a price. Each estate required a small army of servants, scribes, cooks, wet nurses, dancers, concubines, and guards. Some were paid, others were enslaved. A few were born into these roles and never left them. These servants lived in small quarters near the back of the compound. Hot, cramped, functional. They prepared the perfumed oils, they ground the spices. They recorded the omens read by priests, but could not question them. And yet they were closer to power than anyone else. Many learned by watching. Some scribes rose in status over decades, gaining favors or securing better positions for their children. A few even became keepers of libraries, but always beneath someone else. The quiet collapse by the late 6th century BCE, cracks had begun to appear. The elite had grown detached, their rituals increasingly obscure, their influence undermined by competing priesthoods and palace intrigue. The Persians, under Cyrus the Great, approached not with brute force, but with clever propaganda. They promised to respect Babylon's gods. They claimed Marduk had chosen Cyrus as Babylon's new protector. In 539 BCE, the great city fell without a battle. The priest-kings who had ruled from behind veils and stars found themselves obsolete overnight. Their temples remained, but their voices no longer shaped the heavens. Some fled. Others were absorbed into the Persian system. The rest vanished into history. So we return now to silence. The fires in the temples have gone out. The estates are dust. The astrologers' predictions have faded into unreadable clay. But tonight, in your mind, you were there. You lived in a laborer's skin. You stood behind a conqueror. You unearthed lost myths. And you passed through the quiet corridors of Babylon's elites. Now, you may close your eyes. The Euphrates still flows, and Babylon still dreams.